Iceland's Prime Minister Kristrun Frostadottir says her country will hold a referendum in the coming months on joining the European Union. Back in 2013, Iceland abandoned talks about joining the bloc, but Russia's invasion of Ukraine and growing global instability have increased support for becoming a full member state. While Iceland isn't currently in the EU, it works closely with EU countries and is part of Europe's passport-free travel area. Let's take a listen now to the Icelandic Prime Minister making the announcement earlier on Wednesday.
I think Iceland has a lot to bring to the EU. Iceland has shown its strength and its perseverance throughout centuries. We have been able to develop our resources in a positive way. We've been able to drive GDP growth in the right direction. We have had a good welfare system. We have solid values, and we have respect for one another. A lot of these are underlying values that we see in the European community as a whole as well. But Iceland also is an Arctic nation. We're not mainland Europe. So even though we share certain values, we don't share borders in the same way that a lot of Central European or mainland European countries understand. So this is a different element to Europe.
For more on this, I'm joined by Marisol Maddox. She's a senior Arctic fellow at the Institute of Arctic Studies at Dartmouth College. Marisol, with so much focus on the Arctic right now, what does it signal that Iceland may want to join the European Union?
Yeah, so we're seeing renewed talks about engagement with the EU, whether it's expanding defense cooperation or actually reconsidering membership, not just from Iceland, but also from Norway, as well as Canada. So we're really seeing that it's a result of this geopolitical upheaval that is really driving renewed debate within all of these countries.
Norway and Canada, you're saying basically they're moving toward Europe away from the U.S. geostrategically?
Well, I think there have been, very significant changes from the U.S. that are making Europe and Canada really have to question whether the United States is a reliable ally, and really seeing the need to diversify, different coalitions, being able to have more bargaining power, not being overly reliant where they really lose leverage and then can't kind of advocate for their own people from a position of strength. And I think that the tariffs in particular are a major driver of concern for small economies.
Marisol, speaking of the U.S., Donald Trump last month said Iceland several times when he apparently meant to say Greenland. We know he does want to control Greenland. Is there a chance he also has a strategic interest in Iceland?
So Iceland is the I in GI-UK gap, right? So that's the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap, which is a strategic naval choke point. When you look at where Russia's submarines would come down from around Norway down through the North Atlantic. So this is a very strategic location. And so this is where we've seen in recent years an increase in U.S. military cooperation through NATO with Iceland. So even last summer, we had the first U.S. nuclear-powered submarine that made a port call in Iceland. Just before that, we had a historic air power exercise in Iceland based out of Keflavik, where we had our MQ-9 Reapers, deployed for the first time. So that was really in response to the expansion of Russian aggression, and the United States continues to exercise with our allies in Europe, just in a more calibrated way now that the new administration is kind of reprioritizing an interpretation of the Western Hemisphere and Indo-Pacific.
You're saying that Iceland has a very important strategic place in the North Atlantic. What would it mean to Europe to have Iceland be an EU member in terms of its influence there?
Yeah, so I think just in terms of Europe being able to be stronger and be able to deter Russia or to deter aggression from anybody, it's really in Europe's interest to be doubling down on that cooperation, strengthening their ability to operate together, to be a more formidable, unified force. And so I think that's really where you're seeing the major driver of Iceland's renewed interest in joining the EU.
Marisol Maddox of the Institute of Arctic Studies at Dartmouth College, thanks for your assessment.
Thank you.
So let's explore what's going on with Ingólfur Bjarni Sigfússon, who is a journalist at RUV, Iceland's national TV and radio. Welcome to DW. What's behind this decision, Ingo?
Well, it's plain politics. Kristrun Frostadottir is the PM of a government that was elected just around a year and a half ago. There was a change. They came in new. There's a three-party coalition. Two of the three parties are in favor of joining the EU. And while they didn't explicitly campaign on it, it wasn't really a surprise that they wanted to restart these negotiations and see what they would lead to.
OK, so that's party political within this coalition government. Has there been a national sort of conversation leading up to this?
There hasn't really, and there never really has been, which may sound odd given that we applied to join, as you mentioned, some 13, 14 years ago. And I think that will probably be one of the interesting things coming in the coming months, is the debate about actually why would we or why wouldn't we join. That is a debate that is the population in particular has still to have. The politicians have to make the case why they think this is a good idea. And I think the population is very interested in seeing what the argument is pro and contra.
Right. So this announcement is only a couple of hours old. So how has it been received so far?
Well, this wasn't really news to Icelanders. I think this was for European consumption, this particular announcement. The discussion about whether there would be a referendum in the fall or if it would be a little later, that's been going on for a while, but that there would be a referendum of some sort, that has been fairly well known among the general population for quite a while. It was not a secret.
Talk to us about fishing, because I think that's likely to become an important issue in this. How are Icelanders likely to feel about sharing their fishing grounds with 27 other countries?
Well, you're quite right. I think that will be one of the sticking points, and it's certainly one of the first things that anyone on the streets of Reykjavík or any other town in Iceland will mention to you if they were asked about the EU. They will probably talk about sovereignty, which is hard to define, but fisheries is not hard to define. Iceland is a country that both sort of culturally but also economically is very tied to fisheries. We are also very proud of having fought the Brits for our fishing grounds in the Cod Wars. We're proud of the fact that we have a sustainable science-based fishing quota system. While not uncontroversial, it's probably a little better than and sort of more scientifically based than any of the EU systems. So I think people fear that what we've been able to protect here, the fish that we still are able to sustainably catch, that simply won't be around if everyone and anybody can just show up here in an EU boat and do what they want to. I think that will probably be one of the sticking points during these negotiations, whether Iceland can sort of wrangle out an exception or something of the sort before continuing with other and perhaps easier matters.
How much of this has been prompted by the Trump administration and its haggling over Greenland?
I think it's changed things quite a bit. Iceland it's in the middle of the ocean, like Kristrun Frostadottir mentioned. It's easy to feel that we're far away from whatever may be going on the continent or in Ukraine or anywhere else. And yet things are heating up. We're close to the Arctic where things are happening. We're in the middle of the so-called GI-UK gap, the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap, through which Russian ships and subs sail quite frequently. We have a lot of submarine hunters based here in Iceland to track these. And Iceland, while a founding member of NATO in 1949, has never had its own military and still doesn't. Our defense is based on a 1951 agreement with the United States that they would come to our defense if something were to happen. And I think your viewers will probably not be surprised that people here generally feel it might be a good idea to have more than just that to build upon. Do you want to trust that Donald Trump will come to your defense if something happens? I think that's debatable.
All right, good talking to you, Ingo. That's journalist Ingólfur Bjarni Sigfússon.